On the heels of a series of cyber attacks targeting everything from municipalities to drugstore chains, the federal government has announced the details of a coordinated plan to beef up its security against cyber threats. The Enterprise Cybersecurity Strategy will establish a centralized evaluation system to assess risk to different government departments, create a process for disclosing vulnerabilities, and form what they call a purple team to emulate techniques used by hackers and test for security gaps. Joining us how to combat the rising threat of cyber attacks is David Shipley, CEO of Bowstone Security. Good to have you in studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's break down some of the money here, okay? Because Canada is investing $11.1 million in this cybersecurity strategy over the next 5 years. To compare that, the U.S. just announced an investment of $13 billion with a B. So is Canada doing enough?
Not even close.
Right.
Right now, they're talking about throwing a cup of water on a house fire and saying maybe the fire will be out in 10 years.
Right. So in the past few months, let's just walk through some of the cyber attacks that we're aware of,
Yep.
right? So we had the city of Hamilton.
Yes.
The town of Huntsville. London drugs, that's been making headlines, obviously, for the last couple of weeks. And just recently, a couple of days ago, the BC First Nations Health Authority. So when we hear about these cyber attacks, David, when hackers are picking their targets, what are they after? Are they after money? Are they after people's identification, people's personal info? What's the goal here?
So lots of what we're seeing right now is criminal-backed activity that is sanctioned by states. So one of the biggest gangs, Lockbit, operates out of Russia, brings in hundreds of millions of dollars along with other Russian-associated gangs. So this is also a way of fueling their war. So this is part of conflict. It's crime, but it's part of a bigger story. And Canada is losing. When you think about the 5 Ontario hospitals who went for months, and when you think about the chemo patients who suffered because of that, this is having tremendous effects on everyday Canadians, and our government's asleep at the switch. The strategy you just mentioned is them protecting the castle. Us villagers are all getting raided by the cyber Vikings these days, and it's not a good feeling. So attackers are money motivated. Sometimes it's just what they can find on the internet. They're scanning every single second to see if there's something vulnerable, and they're fast at doing that.
Right.
Others hire affiliates, and we've actually had Canadians convicted of working with some of these international gangs who were part of picking specific industries, verticals, and other things, one of whom made $27 million doing those crimes.
What?
27 million. And, you know, so they get really good at this and they work verticals. And when they hit one municipality, they try others. Hamilton's the largest municipality to date that we know, and that's continued to escalate.
When you hear about London drugs saying, okay, we're not going to pay, we can't pay, then what? I mean, then is everybody exposed?
So we now know that Lockbit wasn't bluffing. They released some very sensitive information about employees, including some medical information about employees. In this case, not only is it $25 million, which is absolutely ludicrous for that organization to have to try and pay, Lockbit is now a known entity to the U.S. law enforcement. The leader has been identified and is under sanctions. So legally, London Drugs probably can't even pay, even if they wanted to.
Well, that's the other thing about, like, where are these people? Because they could be anywhere. So
Absolutely.
how do you even find them, and how do you, put a case against them?
So law enforcement in Canada has had some good wins. So there was an IT employee in the federal government, Sébastien Desjardins-Vachon, who is now facing several decades in U.S. prison as an affiliate. But the gangs in Russia, the best we can do is disrupt their operations, ruin their day.
Let's talk about AI and the impact AI is having on cybersecurity, both as a tool to launch attacks and to protect against them.
Absolutely. So the good news is, so far, defenders who have been investing billions of dollars over years have a slight edge. But the proliferation of very cheap, very powerful tools is eroding that. We're seeing more powerful scam emails, those so-called phishing emails, are getting better and harder to spot. And it's lowering the cost of cybercrime, which means more Canadians are being victimized. Up to $600 million was lost by Canadians to cyber fraud last year alone, and the RCMP believes that's only 1/10 of what actually was lost.
Okay, so this is all the bad stuff. Is there hope out there for us? Like, what would you say to somebody right now watching?
There is hope, but here's the problem. Our politicians, the federal leaders in Canada, don't care about this. Why don't they care about it? Because as Canadians, we're not talking about it. Everyday Canadians can do something about this by start demanding better of our government. And the first thing our government can do is what the Americans have done. Bring together the federal government, the provinces, and the private sector for a ransomware summit and get a handle on this before more people suffer.
David Shipley, great to have you here. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.